Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about how I protect my creative brain from burning out. The intro, understanding creative burnout, the protection system, the recovery protocol, and the best, the action plan. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including yourself. I want to tell you what burnout actually felt like for me. Not the dramatic version, the quiet version. It wasn't a breakdown, it wasn't a bad day, it was a slow dimming. The ideas that used to arrive easily stopped coming. The shoots I used to look forward to started feeling like obligations. I'd sit down to create and spend 45 minutes staring at a blank doc, not because I had nothing to say, but because nothing felt worth saying. And the worst part was that from the outside, nothing looked wrong. I was still posting, still taking clients, still showing up. The output was there. The person behind it was running on fumes. That's the version of burnout nobody really talks about. The functional burnout, where you're doing the work, but you've lost the relationship with it. I've since built a set of practices that protect my creative brain from going back to that place. Not productivity hacks, not a morning routine with 14 steps, actual structural decisions about how I live and work that keep the creative engine running. Not hot, not strained, just consistently on. Today I'm sharing all of it, exactly what I do, why it works, and how you can apply it into your own creative business and creative life. I'm Danny, DR Visuals. Let's get into it. Understanding creative burnout. Burnout is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you have been strong for too damn long. What burnout actually is for a creative. Before we talk about how to protect yourself from a burnout, I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing because the word gets used a lot of different experiences and the solutions are different depending on which one you're in. There's exhaustion burnout. You've been doing too much for too long and your body is just tired. The fix is rest, straightforward. There's creative depletion burnout. Your ideas have dried up because you've been outputting without inputting. You've been giving without replenishing. The fix is new inputs, new experiences, new observations, new material for your brain to work with. And then there's the identity burnout. This is the deepest one and the least talked about. It happens when the gap between who you are being in your content and who you actually are become too wide to maintain. When the performance of the brand has overtaken the reality of the person, when you've been showing up as someone you're not fully sure you are anymore. Identity burnout doesn't respond to rest. You can take a week off and come back and feeling the exact same way because the problem isn't the workload, it's the misalignment. Most creative brands are experiencing some combination of all three, and the reason they can't fix it is they're trying one type when they're actually dealing with another. The specific pressure that burn creatives out. Let me name the specific things that create burnout for photographers, filmmakers, and creative brand owners because they're different from general burnouts. First, the dual identity pressure. You're a creative and a business owner simultaneously. The creative wants to make things matter. The business owner needs things to actually convert. These two imperatives are often in tension. And holding that tension every single day, deciding which voice to listen to on every piece of content is exhausting in a way that neither role alone would be. Second, the comparison compression. You're watching the people ahead of you and feeling behind. You're watching the people at your level and feeling the competition. You're watching the people behind you and feeling the pressure to stay ahead. You are simultaneously in three comparison directions at once. That's not inspiration. That's a nervous system under constraint threat. Third, the invisible labor. The shoots people see are the 1% of the work. The pitching, the invoicing, the editing, the planning, the strategy, the posting, the responding, the showing up, even when you don't want to. None of that is visible. And invisible labor is the most appealing kind because there is no recognition to offset the cost. Fourth, the always on culture. There is no clock out for creative brand owner. The content never stops needing to be made. The audience never stops expecting you to show up. The algorithm never takes a day off, and so neither do you. Even when your body does, your mind is still on. These four pressure compound. These four pressures compound, and without deliberate structure to counter-interact them, they will eventually compress your creative energy to a point where the work becomes mechanical, the content becomes hollow, and you wonder why you started doing all of this. So, the warning signs I learned to recognize. I want to give you the specific warning signs I now recognize in myself before burnout becomes functional, because catching it early is infinitely easier than recovering from it fully. Warning sign number one: the ideas stop arriving. Not a temporary dry spell, a sustained absence of genuine enthusiasm for anything in a creative space. When I sit with an idea and feel nothing, no pull, no curiosity, no energy, that's a signal. Warning sign number two: the work starts feeling performed. When I'm filming and I can feel myself performing rather than actually expressing myself. When the words are technically correct but feel hollow coming out. When I'm going through the motion of being me instead of actually being me. Warning sign number three: the metrics start mattering too much. When I'm checking the analytics more than twice a day, when a low view video ruins my mood for hours, when my self-worth and my analytics start moving together, that's burnout beginning to blur the line between my work and my actual identity. Warning sign number four: the resistance spikes. When tasks that used to take 30 minutes now take 2 hours, become a circling them instead of doing them. When procrastination appears on things I used to find easy, the resistance is the psych way of saying something is wrong before the conscious mind is ready to admit it. If you're experiencing two or more of these right now, you're not in burnout yet, but you're close enough that what comes next matters. So, the protection system. Self-care is not a luxury, it's a discipline. Protection layer number one: a creative separation. The first and most fundamental protection I built was hard separation between my creative time and my business time. Creative time is when I'm making, filming, editing, ideating, writing. The goal is just expression. The metric is whether it feels true. Business time is when I'm managing, responding to clients, reviewing analytics, planning content calendars, handling invoices. The goal is growth. The metric is whether it's moving the business forward. When these two models bleed into each other, when I'm trying to create while managing or managing while creating, both suffer. The creative work gets polluted by business anxiety, the business decisions get distorted by creative impulse. The separation is not just time blocking, it's genuine mental shift. Before I enter any creative time, I do a specific thing. I write down every business thought that's currently active in my head, and I tell myself it's been parked, meaning I'm not touching that business thought. It's written, it will be handled in the business time. Now, this time is for the work. That 5-minute parking exercise removes 80% of the mental interference that used to follow me into the creative sessions that I had. It sounds simple, it works every time. Protection layer number two: the input ratio. Creative output is directly limited by creative input. You cannot consistently produce original, energized work if you're not feeding the system with experiences, ideas, and stimulations that have nothing to do with your own content creation. I maintain what I call an input ratio. For every hour of content I produce, I invest in at least 30 minutes in input that is completely outside of the content creation world. books that have nothing to do with photography or marketing, films from directors I admire for their vision, not their strategy, conversation with people in completely different fields as mine, time and spaces that make me feel something, not as a content idea, just as human being in the world. This input doesn't produce immediate ideas. It produces the conditions in which ideas arrive on their own. It keeps the well from going dry. The creators who run out of ideas almost always have an input problem, not an idea problem. Their output has exceeded their input for long enough that the well is empty, and no amount of forcing will produce water from an empty well. Protection layer number 3, the comparison firewall. Comparison is probably the single fastest drain on a creative energy that it exists. And for photographers and filmmakers, it's almost unavoidable because our medium is visual and the internet is full of visual work that exists specifically to be compared. I built a comparison firewall. It has 2 components. Component number 1, I curate my feed with ruthlessness. Anyone whose content consistently makes me feel behind, inadequate, or anxious gets unfollowed. Not because their work isn't good, because the cost to my creative state is higher than the benefits of their inspiration. This is not insecurity, it's an asset management. My creative energy is an asset and I protect it as much as I can. Component number 2, I redirect comparison inward. Instead of asking how am I doing compared to them, I ask how am I doing compared to how I was 3 months ago. That's the only comparison that actually produces useful information, because my 3 months ago self is the only benchmark that's actually mine. The inward comparison produces a completely different emotional experience than the outward one. It produces evidence of growth rather than the evidence of the deficit. And evidence of growth is fuel, evidence of deficit is drain. Protection layer number 4, the non-negotiable rest. Rest is not a reward for finishing the work, it's part of the actual work. I have 1 full day per week that has nothing to do with content related activity. No filming, no editing, no strategy, no checking the studio, analytics, no scrolling creator content. 1 day where my brain gets to be a brain, not a content machine. In the beginning, it felt irresponsible, like I was failing behind, like everyone else was posting on a Sunday and I was choosing not to do anything. What I've learned is that the 6 days I work after that 1 day of rest are more productive, more creative, and more energized than the 7 days I used to work without it. The math on rest is counterintuitive. You don't produce less by working less, you produce more, better, from a fuller place. The rest day is a non-negotiable. Not most weeks, every week. It's in the calendar as locked commitment. Not even a big client request moves it, because a burnout version of me serves no clients well. Protection layer number 5, the identity check-in. Once a month, I do what I call an identity check-in. It's 20 minutes with a notebook and 3 questions that I ask myself. Question 1, is the content I'm making still aligned with who I am actually right now? Not who I was when I started the channel, who I am actually today. Question number 2, is there a gap between the version of me I'm presenting publicly and the version of me I'm living privately? If there is, how wide is it and how long has it been there? Question number 3, what do I actually want to make right now, with zero consideration of what will perform? The answer to these questions have saved me for identity burnout more times than I can count, because they catch the misalignment early, before it becomes the functional burnout I described at the start of the video, before the dimming actually happens. When the answers reveal a gap, I don't panic. I adjust. I have a piece of content that's more honest, a direction that's more aligned, one small move toward the real version of who I actually want to be. That's usually enough to recalibrate. The recovery protocol. You can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first. If you're already in it, Everything I've described so far is protection. For the people who aren't fully in burnout yet, but I know some of you watching this are already inside it, already in the dimming, already in the functional burnout where the output is there, but the person behind it is actually gone. I want to speak directly to you for an actual moment. First, you do not fail. Burnout is not a character flaw. It's a structural problem. The structure you were operating inside were taking more than they were giving, and you stayed because you cared about the work. That's not weakness. That's the thing that will also get you through. Second, the recovery is not dramatic. It's boring. It's the same thing repeated until well refills. Rest, input, reduce output, honest creation, inward comparison, the identity check-in. These things work slowly and they work completely. Third, you don't have to stop posting to recover. In fact, for most creators, brand owners, a complete stop makes the anxiety worse. What you do is lower the bar temporarily. Your minimum visible post becomes your only post. You remove all the content that becomes from pressure and keep only the content that comes from something that is genuine. The genuine content, even if it's simpler, shorter, less produced, will almost always perform better than the pressure content because the audience feels the difference. They always feel the difference. And somewhere in the process of making the smaller, more honest thing, the energy starts to return. Not all at once, in flickers. A moment of genuine interest in an idea, a shoot that feels good instead of obligation, a piece of content that you actually want to watch back. Those flickers are the creative brain coming back online. Follow them. Make the thing the flicker is pointing at. Don't wait until the fire is fully back before you start creating from it. The fire comes back by being used, not by being waited for. So, what's your action plan? 5 things to start this week. Pick the one that addresses whichever type of burnout you're closest to, and start there. You don't have to implement all 5 at once. One structural change held consistently is more valuable than 5 changes held for a week. Do the 5-minute parking exercise before your next creative session. Before you sit down to film or create anything, open up your notebook, your notepad, your phone, and write everything, every idea that you have business-wise, and just write it down. Label the doc parked and tell yourself it's handled for now. Then close it and actually create. Audit your input ratio this week. For 7 days, track how much time you spend consuming content about content creation versus consuming things that are completely different, having different types of conversations, sitting down with people that are not in your industry. Number 3, build the comparison firewall today. Open an Instagram or YouTube right now. Scroll your following list. Anyone whose content consistently leaves you feeling like you're left behind or that you're not worth it, unfollow them. 4, block one full day this week with 0 content activity. Just go out for a walk, no music, no phone, just rest, watch movies, and just allow the boredom to kick in as well. Go to a park, go walk your dog. Number 5, do the identity check-in tonight. 20 minutes, a notebook, 3 questions. Is my current content still aligned with who I am actually right now? Is there a gap between the public version and the private version of myself? What do I actually want to make with 0 consideration of performance? Write down them 3 and answer them as honestly as you can. Your creative brain is not broken. It's just been running without the structure that protects it. Build the structure, the brain comes back, the work comes back, and it comes back even better because you built it on a foundation that can hold it in its time. If you want to build a content system that's designed to be sustainable from the start, one that protects your creative energy while still producing consistent lead generation content, that's exactly what we do at DR Visuals. There is a link down below. It's a strategy call if you guys want to hop on a strategy call with me. There is a scroll stop playbook. It has about 35 AI prompts, DMs on how to get your next clients, and how to pitch yourself to the ideal clients that you want. Subscribe if this found you at the right time. Share it with a creative of a friend who's running on fumes and hasn't named it yet. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.